Hi everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Just Good Games. So here we go. Today I will be laying down my review of the most divisive game of the year so far. Well, probably until Cyberpunk 2077 comes out. The Last of Us Part 2. Before I get into it, I'm going to lay down a few ground rules like I do with all divisive games that I review. At the end of the day, this is my opinion and it really holds no weight in the grander scheme of things, but I like to put it out there. If you disagree with me, which some of you will, then that's cool. But my experience of this game is my experience and nothing you will say will change that. Now that's over with, and if you're still here, there will be minor spoilers. It's sort of it's not spoilers, but I give inklings of stuff which might happen from what I say. And also, could you please scroll down and hit that subscribe button please, as it will be much appreciated. Straight off the bat, I really did enjoy the story. And now half of you had just stopped watching. So the other half, who are still with me, let's go. Is it as good as the first game's story? No. Does it make it a bad story? No. Naughty Dog has stated that there's really no heroes or villains in the Last of Us universe. Only the quest for survival. This world is just a bad world, and that is definitely true of this game. It really shows both sides of it. There's beautiful, quiet, tranquil moments, brief glimpses of humanity, and then there's just bleakness and horror. It shows that no character's conscience is truly clean and that relationships and friendships are complicated. People might not react to something like you would, but that's because they're not you and you haven't been through a post-apocalyptic world like these characters have gone through. There's so many shades of grey in this game, and that is shown in how the story is structured. The Last of Us 2 is structured in days, not unlike the first game which was divided into seasons. You also get some flashbacks to fill in the gaps between the games and to give you context to some of what's been going on in the present day. These flashbacks are some of the game's lighter moments, and they are needed as it can get heavy. This game is truly about revenge and the cost of that, and it stems ultimately from a decision that Joel made in the first game. It's also about breaking the cycle of violence and trying to be better, which sort of was a theme which was used in the latest God of War game. It's also about how the quest for revenge can consume you and is all consuming, and how if you go down that road you can lose everything. It opens up strongly and sets the table up nicely for what is to come. And I don't mind that decision which happened at the start of the game, to be honest. It was always going to happen, and I don't know how else you could have done it. It could have been heroic, but it's bloody brutal. It's not as cinematic and action-packed as, say, Uncharted, but to be honest, I never expected it to be on that level, but I think it outdoes the first game for big action set pieces. There's a chase sequence within the first 3 hours that is amazing. It's so tense, it's so visceral, and every action in the story feels like it has a real weight to it. I can't say too much more without going into proper spoiler territory, but there's a slight deviation / change in the middle / second half of the story, and it does offer up a nice counterpoint to the story. It actually serves up some of the game's best action set pieces, and at one point it goes full on Resident Evil. Does this section go on for a bit too long? Probably. But I'm not going to hold it against this game too much, as some other amazing games have some slight deviations that maybe go on for a bit too long, like Guarma in Red Dead Redemption 2. And like in that game, it doesn't take away too much from the overall story, but maybe goes on for a bit too long. Also, the game could have shaved off about 5 hours to make it a tighter experience, but for some reason, I'm not saying you should shave like the end off, I'm just saying that you could definitely lose 5 hours in it to make it a tighter experience. But obviously some people complain when you pay for a full price game and it's under 30 hours. But that's just a minor gripe. Naughty Dog wanted to tell the story that they wanted to tell, and in the end of that I applaud them for that. You know, you've been through some shit, and it will be interesting to see if they continue it. It's a bleak game, but personally I don't mind playing a game like this every once in a while when it's up to this higher of a standard. There's hundreds of uplifting games out there, and I think a game like this is welcome. And it just provides a different kind of experience while playing games. The gameplay is definitely an improvement on the first game and takes some of the strides that have been taken in the last 2 Uncharted games and adds them in here. The melee combat is massively improved and it can get heavy when you're duking it out with a clicker or a human. So is the stealth with the ability to go prone. Such an improvement. It's an improvement which I didn't know that I needed. The gunplay and controls are roughly the same and just standard Naughty Dog, so if you don't like the standard Naughty Dog stuff then you're not going to like the gameplay, and to be honest I didn't expect much more than that. What I will say though is the combat is so visceral and violent, which is fantastic. There's a weight to every punch and every shot, and all the death and stealth animations are amazing. This is a post-apocalyptic world, for God's sake, and it's going to get heavy. And in a world where we're striving for better graphics and more realistic animations, this is probably the trade-off. To be honest, there's nothing too gruesome in this game when you compare it to episodes of like Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. But then again, I'm someone who thought Glenn's death in The Walking Dead was awesome because it was just like the comics and so gruesome. I think some people react to violence in a different way. I just shake it off and there you go. At one point the game opens up to a short sort of semi-open world section, which is a great new addition and allows for a bit of exploration. Naughty Dog have done this in the last 2 Uncharted games and it works really well here. There's so much to find, so many little optional things and conversations that you could miss out on if you don't explore. So definitely go out and give these areas, well this area, an explore. They add so much to the game and add a bit of comedy to balance out the intense and otherwise visceral action. Take your time and don't rush this game, and definitely try to find the record shop when you get into Seattle for the first time. These almost act like little side missions as well and reward you with upgrades and weapons. As I will probably say many times in this review, this game is a technical marvel, and the fact that you have so many different interiors and buildings to explore is great. They are all different and offer countless rewards, items and collectibles to flesh out the lore of this game even more. It really does make you feel like you're in a post-apocalyptic world, searching buildings for materials and items to survive. What has also helped improve the gameplay of this game is the addition of the jump button. It's such a simple addition but completely changes the way you play from the first game. Fights can now unfold on different levels. I was firing arrows off of a roof, then dropping down and going prone in some long grass, popping off shots, hitting stealth kills, and then getting down and dirty with some hand-to-hand combat, and this flows really nicely. Also, adding the jump button allows for some climbing sections and some minor platforming. Nothing on Nathan Drake level, but enough to break up the sections of action. As I said earlier, the action set pieces are really good, and the on the rails sections are also amazing. It really ups the ante on the last game. The crafting and scavenging is roughly the same from the last game, and there's some nice new items though to craft, like explosive arrows and fire rounds for your shotgun. The graphics and production values are pretty much the best I've ever seen on a console game. Maybe only Death Stranding comes close. This game, like the first Last of Us, comes at the end of the generation and pushes the hardware to its limits. There's some absolutely stunning landscapes and environments. The use of red lighting and red lights in this game is also amazing. It makes some of the darker The use of red light in this game is also amazing. The way some of the darker moments of this game play out with you bathed in red is great. There's just an amazing tense atmosphere about the game, and this is helped by the environments being so well realised. Apparently it's also pretty accurate. It's a pretty accurate reimagining of Seattle. The animations are just spot on and it takes it to another level, and I really can't wait to see what Naughty Dog do with the PlayStation 5. The voice acting and performances are on such a high level in this game and are up to Hollywood standard. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with The Last of Us Part 2. It reminded me of when I watched The Revenant. I loved every minute of that film, but would I want to watch it again? Probably not, and it's the same with this. I might go for the platinum, but I'm okay with it being a one and done situation. To be honest, I don't play games multiple times anyway, so that doesn't really matter to me. This game, once again, is a technical marvel, and the story is bold, and I think a natural progression of the first game when you really think about it. It was always going to come down to that massive decision that Joel made at the end of the first game. To be honest, I think Some were expecting it to be Ellie and Joel on another rip-roaring adventure across the USA, taking out clickers and bad guys, and in reality it was never going to be that, was it really? What we got is a harrowing tale of revenge and hate. Maybe there'll be a third one, and maybe that will be about redemption, meaning this would be the dark, and I mean really dark, middle chapter, but only time will tell. What lets it down is some pacing issues and maybe just some minor gripes that plague all of Naughty Dog's games, and some, like all games in general, like clunkish controls and slow walking sections, which we all know are loading screens. The fact that the infected and clickers are not really the greatest enemies and just sort of take a back seat and are just a bit of annoyance sometimes is an issue which carries over from the first game, to be honest, but it's not enough to bring it down. This is Naughty Dog doing what they do best. Does it surpass the first game? I don't think so, but it comes close. The first game was lightning in a bottle, and to truly capture that again would be so hard, but this is a fantastic game, and although not the game of the generation that we thought it might be, and some people are saying it is, I don't think it's that higher level. It's certainly in the conversation and probably a top 5 game of this generation. Personally, for me, God of War still holds that title. With this all being said, I'm going to award The Last of Us Part 2 just essential games. So thank you for making it to the end of my Last of Us 2 review. You obviously completely disagree with me, or you completely agree with me. There's no middle ground when it comes to people's reactions to this game. But what I would like you to do, if you've enjoyed the review, is go down there, hit that subscribe button, like, share, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and once again, you have been watching Just Good Games.